Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. Learn from their experiences and navigate the highs and lows of the investing world. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited. My friend Sean Castro is with us today. We're going to be talking shop. We're going to be learning a little bit about Sean and his background. He is one of the rising stars in the real estate investment community. He is a student of Jamil Damji and the Astro Flipping Group. And he also is the owner of Top Shelf Acquisitions.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say Top Flip, but Top Shelf Acquisitions. So Sean, welcome, buddy. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's late in the afternoon out in Tampa where you're located, but I'm really appreciative.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Benson. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So man, we've had a chance to talk a few times just in person through the different events. I think our first time we met was at Justin Colby's event in Tampa, right?
I believe it might have even been before that at Ryan Zolan's event in Arizona.
Okay.
His agent investors earlier this year. I don't remember exactly what month it was, but I think the first time that I met you in that hotel, he had a little mastermind there.
Right. And then we had some lunch, got to know each other a little bit better, and we had a chance to hang out a few times. And the last one was at Jamil's Mastermind in Phoenix, which was awesome. I had a blast there. A lot of good people. What did you like about the event?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite part is probably just connecting with the community, seeing a lot of my friends, a lot of people I do business with in person. It's really just a great weekend. We all share an Airbnb. We stay up till like 2 a.m, masterminding, breaking down each other's businesses and just helping each other grow in almost every facet. So that's really fun. Seeing Jamil, getting a lot of insight with all the speakers that he brings in. It's just all around just a great event, great weekend for sure.
Oh, it is. And you can really immerse yourself fully into those events. And I like how you mentioned too, where you guys were up till 2 a.m. and you wanted to clarify you were partying, right? You guys were working, you were masterminding.
Yeah.
Is that intentional? Is someone no, hey, no drinking, we're working here?
1000%. I know for me specifically, the original group we were going to go with, they were like, oh, let's party and let's bring over all these people and girls and this and that. And I was like, I do not want to associate with those people. These masterminds are very special. It's an investment. And with the right group of people, it can really, really help you take off in your business and whatever minor or major things that it may be. So it was definitely strategic who, we shared an Airbnb with and who we spent most of our time with for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's smart, because I go to some masterminds too, and sometimes they call them masterminds, but they're really just, people on stage talking at you, right? And, they're dropping in little sales pitches here and there, which is all fine and good. But you guys made a real effort to make sure that you were taking that time outside of the planned and organized events to do some masterminding. What do you guys do in those things? Are you just throwing ideas at each other? You said you were looking at each other's deals. What else is happening?
Absolutely. So kind of what's become almost like a mastermind ritual is, we'll all gather around in the nighttime in the living room. Somebody will either have or we'll buy like an HDMI cord, and we'll hook up our computers to the TV so it projects it up there so everybody can see. And we'll say, okay, what does your acquisition process look like? When you get an inbound lead, what does your pipeline look like? What does the lead go through? What does your disposition look like? What are your KPIs? What does your team look like if that person has a team? And so then, somebody will break down their business, their process, and then everybody else will say, okay, that's good. Well, what if you did this? Or have you tried this? Or, I used to do that, but one thing that works for me really great now is this. And so we all kind of just bounce ideas off of each other and mastermind. So
yeah, legitimate mastermind. But you have to go in it with a certain kind of mindset to be able to get something out of it, which is like an abundance mindset. Like you want to give to the group, not necessarily take. And it seems to me that that's what's going to make those things work, is that people are giving without expecting anything in return.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, a handful of guys in the mastermind in the Airbnb that we stayed at, I mean, we're in the same market, so we're pretty much competing against each other, but we're still sharing ideas, sharing processes, sharing efficiencies, things like that. So as far as for me and the people that I try to surround myself with, um, there's not so much of that, limited scarcity mindset.
Yeah. And it seems to me too that Jamil attracts those kinds of people anyway. Right. So it's like you don't have to do a ton of filtering. Like if they get to the mastermind, they've already kind of fit into that mold of someone who's a go-giver and would be
Right.
a good participant in one of those masterminds, right?
Yeah, 1000%. Jamil, he's always talking about, abundance and again, not having that scarcity mindset and that there's enough deals out there for everybody. It's not like there's one deal out there and, only one person can get it. There's hundreds and thousands of deals if we're talking about across the nation that come
Yeah,
up on a daily basis. So there's plenty out there for everybody for sure.
there is, but ultimately there's always going to be those people that you cross who just are there to take and to, you know, they're only in it for themselves.
Yep.
Have you ever had a situation like that you came across where you're like, oh, this person is not somebody I want to be hanging out with?
Um, Off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody I've maybe done a deal with. But
Mhm.
I'm sure there's been tons of situations where before we even got to that point, before we even joint ventured on a deal, I was kind of getting some of those vibes, people looking out for themselves, not necessarily being like a team player, willing to cancel the deal over something super minor.
Right.
I just really just kind of nip those things in the butt as soon as I see them. I just try to disassociate myself with them immediately, and just end it there. So as far as an example off the top of my head, I can't think of one, and I think it's again just because I cut it off so quickly.
Well, it might also be too, you're not even old enough to drink, right? You're just turned 20 a few weeks ago, which is something I wanted to bring up early on, but I thought we would kind of stumble into it, which we did, which is you've only been doing this for a short period of time, but a big part of your life already is in the wholesale business. So tell me how you got started in wholesale and how it's been going recently.
Yeah, so I was just having this conversation a few times, and it always cracks me up. But the first time that I heard about wholesaling real estate was actually through a TikTok. And it was by a gentleman by the name of King Kong. I'm sure, most people have
Oh
probably
yeah,
heard
I know
of.
King. He's in my mastermind. This right here.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go get this money.
Yeah.
That's his little saying. So he was the first person that kind of exposed me to it and opened my eyes to it. At that point, I was probably 16 or 17. I was still in high school. I didn't take any immediate action with that. It was kind of just like how to make $10,000 in 30 days. And that's kind of what, got my attention. And then, kind of long story short, I ended up joining Sub 2 with my mom. She had brought it up to me. We had went half and half, got a little bit of more experience and knowledge there. I joined a team. I was with a direct to seller team for about 7 to 9 months, gained a lot of knowledge, a lot of sales experience, a lot of phone experience, underwriting, all that good stuff. And then I went on in my own pretty much about a year ago, probably 13, 14 months.
Mhm.
And since then I've been working the Tampa area. And that's what I've been doing ever since. So it hasn't even been that long. Yeah.
Not long at all, man. But you 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 talk and act like somebody who's twice your age. So I got to tell you that your mom, obviously a big influence on you. She's the one that got you into Sub 2, or influenced you in some way to join that. Um, so congrats, man, on your maturity and the ability to really kind of dig in quickly and have some early success in the business. I want to talk about your mom in a little bit, but
Sure.
you said you over the last year or so you've been doing some deals. So tell me about your success. Like how many deals are you doing, if you don't mind me asking, and how's your business?
Yeah. Yeah. So this year for 2023, we'll probably wrap out the year at 13 deals for that year. Since I've started, I think I've done 14 because I started, in December, so or November, December. So 14 deals in the last 12 or 13 months. I'm probably, let me see, on average, anywhere from 1 to 3 deals right now. As far as, numbers this year, we'll probably close out just under 150,000, probably like 140, low 140s. And
That's the gross assignment revenue.
yeah, for my company. Yeah.
Nice.
And I do it all through agent outreach and offers on the MLS. So the great part about that is we don't really have any marketing costs. We're not pulling lists, we're not getting data, things like that. The first half of the year, I was on my own, making a lot of the calls, a lot of the texts, doing the quote unquote dirty work on my own. And then I started slowly bringing on people on my team. So right now it's 6 of us. I've got 2
Wow.
VAs, I've got 3 other people that are just crushing it, reaching out to agents, making offers on the MLS. So the progress has just been, I just sit back and look, and I'm just super, grateful and filled with gratitude of, how much progress I've made in the last year. So I'm just super excited for what the future has to hold.
Oh, it's amazing, man. Like, I'm sure you talk to people, but I've been talking to people for years. I've been in the business for 20 years, and maybe longer than you've been alive when we put those numbers together, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But people just don't, it doesn't happen like this. It doesn't just happen where people get it so quickly and then have the wherewithal to push through all the adversity and overcome the obstacles and the no's and the naysayers and the takers. But you've done it, man. Like, you've really done it. And it's just starting. Like, what are your goals? Let's say, what are your goals for 2024? And then what's your midterm 5-year goal?
Yeah, so I have some pretty aggressive goals for 2024. It's tough to even think about, and I'm putting it out in the world there, so now I really have to get after it. But my goal for 2024 is $500,000 in assignment fees, so $500,000 in gross assignment fees to the company. So that's one goal that I'm working on. I've been, tightening up on systems, processes, KPIs, things like that, with the people on my team and myself. As far as a 5-year goal, that's a great question. And I mean, to be honest with you, Benson, 5 year, I mean, my life I'm only 20, right? So 5 years is already, what is that, like a fourth of my life. So it's hard for me to see out even that far. If I will even be doing wholesale at that point, maybe I'll be doing fix and flip. Maybe I'll, be developing. Maybe I'll be in a completely different industry. Who knows? So 5 years,
I
it's
doubt
just,
it. I doubt you're in a different industry. You're
I
building
don't know.
too good of a foundation here to just bail and do something else.
Right.
Um, but I understand what you're saying. I've not been great at setting long-term goals myself either. It's really it's a skill, and it's hard to hold yourself to, because things change. Or like, one thing could change this month that will change your trajectory for the next 5 years, and then you have to redo all your goals, right? But you did mention too, like, okay, there's going to be an evolution possibly or probably in your business. A lot of people do start off as a wholesaler or in wholesale because it's like out of pocket costs are low. It's, the risk is relatively low. It's easy to get into. And, a lot of people do that to create liquidity, put some cash in the bank. And then next thing you know, now you can level up into some different kinds of investment types. Have you thought about, okay, well, I want to own real estate. I want to own rental properties or short-term rentals or storage units. Like, where do you see yourself kind of growing the evolution of your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, owning real estate is definitely the end goal for, I would say, probably a majority of people. Some things that have piqued my interest are like multifamily, larger multifamily commercial, self-storage. Short-term rentals sound great with the amount of cash flow and the cash on cash return. One thing that I've been kind of looking into as well that I haven't heard so much in a lot of these groups is like Section 8 rentals, kind of in the Midwest. They cash flow pretty well. Yeah, those are probably what I'm looking at. As far as, when I plan on owning property,
It could be 2024, man. Like,
yeah,
if you hit your $500,000 goal, and I think you will, like, in a lot of these other investment types, 20% down is a good amount you can put down and to make these numbers work.
right.
But really, if you think about it, you can go in and you could do some sort of a we invest this little small amount of money into
Fund.
a syndication deal, right? And those are as little as like 50 grand to get in most of them.
Yeah.
So like there's a good chance you'll have some exposure to that. And that's actually one of the reasons why I like to go to events. I was at the Bigger Pockets event, and I mean, there was like 10 opportunities, several
Wow.
syndication deals, some other, sub two or other, wholesale acquisition type stuff. That's what I really like about events, is that you come across opportunities.
Yeah.
But I mean, with your trajectory, I believe you'll probably start investing in some portfolio investments by 2024.
Hopefully. Yeah. I mean, if I hit that $500,000 goal, I better start owning some real estate for the tax purposes for sure.
Oh, you're gonna need the deductions.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
100%. Yeah.
So you mentioned that one of your first, I guess, educational endeavors was into the sub two community with Pace.
Yeah.
And you did that with your mom. Tell me about how your mom has influenced you, growing up as a child, to become so entrepreneurial, and then really being one of the gatekeepers and openers for you to get into the sub two community.
Yeah, so my mom has been, one of my biggest supporters ever since I was young. I've always kind of been hustling, anything to make a buck. I used to, sell candy in school. I used to flip sneakers. I did a little bit of like pressure washing on the side. And one day, I don't know, I think it was on the weekend or something, I was running errands with her, and she got a phone call from one of the sub two sales reps. And I guess she was speaking with them, and she kind of was looking for some information. I had no idea, right? So she took the call. I didn't really think anything of it. I wasn't even listening too much to it because, I thought it was for her work, whatever. And then I started hearing about real estate and investing and creative finance and a little bit of wholesale. And she gets off the phone with the gentleman, and she's like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do I think? Like, what even is that?" Like, I didn't even know who Pace was. And she's like, "This is a real estate mentorship, and there's a lot of great people in it, and they can teach you how to wholesale." At the time, my mom was working for a builder, Pulte. She still does, but she wasn't too experienced in the wholesaling, the paper flipping.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, "This is a great program that can help you get your foot in the door." And so, I was really skeptical. I told her to call him back. I had a couple more questions. He answered all of my questions. And then it was kind of like one of those YOLO moments. I was like, let's do it. Like
Yeah.
at that point I was probably a junior or a senior in high school. I knew for sure that I didn't want to go to college, and I was kind of just like, let's do it, let's do it.
Right.
So that definitely helped get my foot in the door, get into the community. Um, and I submerged myself in the community. I connected with a lot of great people. There's so many great resources and Zooms within Sub 2 that can help you in any aspect, which is really great.
Oh yeah. Now, was your mom entrepreneurial growing up? Like, you said she worked for Pulte, right? Which, did she have to be licensed?
Yeah, I believe you do have to be licensed to work for Pulte. So she
Mhm.
she essentially sells new construction for them.
Right.
Um, has she been entrepreneurial her whole entire life? Honestly, that's a great question. I don't think I've ever asked her that. I don't think she was necessarily like a hustler, like always doing something to catch a dollar to make a dollar.
Mm-hmm.
But ooh, that's a great question. To my knowledge, she's always pretty much had, regular jobs. So,
Right.
but now she's owning property and she's doing her own investing. So she is, becoming or is an entrepreneur now. But as far as when she was younger, growing up, that's a great question. I actually don't know.
It sounds like she was entrepreneurial at heart. Um, because if something attracted her to sub two, there was something there that resonated with her, right? Like,
Right.
you know, the regular 9 to 5 person who's just like on that path to retirement, like they could hear all the stuff that people talk about around real estate investing, and like the free ways of doing it, and make this much per month, and just kind of block it out, right? It's just noise. But if there's something in you that's entrepreneurial, it resonates, and it's like, okay, I want to learn more. So it sounds like that's been in her for a while, and she handed it off to you. I don't know if it's in your genes or what, but it somehow got in your blood too.
Yeah, I mean, I think with her, she was working, she's always worked pretty much regular jobs, 9 to 5 jobs. And she was like, I don't want to continue doing this. So, she's been in real estate for ever since I was little. So she's known about investing. And I think she got to a point where she was like, all right, like I'm going to start buying my own property. And when she had joined, or when we had joined Sub 2, oh, she had probably had, I don't know, maybe a duplex and a single family at that time. So she had, one or two or three rentals. And she was getting more intrigued and, diving more into self-education and these mentors out there like Pace. So that's kind of what sparked it in her. And then with me, I don't know, I was always kind of just a born hustler. I knew that I didn't want to go to college. I knew for a fact that I didn't want to work a regular 9 to 5 job. And it's like, all right, like, you got to find something. And my parents were always in real estate. You know, I heard so many great things about real estate, reading what most people call the purple Bible, Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
There you
with
go.
all the great benefits that real estate has: appreciation, depreciation, cash flow, the debt pay down, all those things. It's almost like non-comparable to any other investment. So, all those factors were definitely very attractive.
Yeah. Did you have another potential path in your mind when you were younger? Like, man, I want to like, I'm going to be an astronaut, or I'm going to be a professional athlete, or I'm going to, do something else. What was it that you thought you would do when you grow up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I was really young, I was in probably preschool or kindergarten. My parents always tell me about this story when we were doing like some sort of school group activity, and it was like, "What do you want to grow up?" And kids were like, "I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a police officer." And I said that I wanted to be a pool guy because I had seen the guy cleaning our pool, and for whatever reason,
Nice.
that was what I wanted to be when I was in kindergarten or preschool. But when I got a little bit older, I don't know, business kind of always intrigued me. I played soccer for about 10 years. So, at some point I probably thought I was going to make it big. That never ended up happening. But I would say probably through middle school, business kind of always intrigued me, being a business owner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you got that competitive spirit. If you were playing soccer for all those years and you got,
Yeah.
10 years is a long time to play any sport and not have meaningful success. What kind of discipline have you had to put in place for yourself to make sure that you do the things that you're supposed to do in life and in business?
Yeah, I mean, I think discipline is so important in, almost anything that you want to do. I have a pretty my morning routine is pretty strict, and very rarely do I deviate from it. And that really just helps me kind of set myself up for the day, set myself up for success for the day, the week, the month. And I mean, I feel like if you don't have discipline, you don't have anything.
Right.
'Cause motivation can only take you so far. And when that motivation burns out, you know, when it's time to make those calls or go to the gym early in the morning or do this or do that, and you don't have any motivation, what are you going to do? So the
Mhm.
discipline is just super key, keeping those promises to yourself, doing what you say you're going to do, and doing them no matter what. If you feel like doing it, if you don't feel like doing it, um, whatever the circumstances are, you got to get it done no matter what. I think discipline is so important.
Are there any tricks that you can share with people that you use? Maybe is it like a task organizational tool, or is it an accountability buddy, or is it all within you and you just do it?
Yeah, I mean, as far as day by day after my morning routine, I definitely need to get a little bit better with the scheduling and the planning. But
Mhm.
as far as everything else, I think that, I've just made kind of like a personal decision. Like, I know what I want and I know what it takes, and I know what it takes to get there. So, I mean, again, the discipline is just so key, and knowing what you want and being set kind of on your goals and knowing what it takes to get there is, enough drive for me to keep going every day and sticking to the routine.
Yeah, for a lot of people, they just don't have a big enough why. Right?
Yeah.
The reason why they're putting themselves through this difficult path, right? They don't have a good reason why. Have you thought about what your why is?
That's another question that I get often, and I think I'm still trying to figure that out. I think for right now, my why is, I don't want to live a regular life. I don't want to be average. I want to have that financial freedom that everybody's chasing. I want to be able to take care of my siblings, of my parents, of everybody else in my family, of the family that I grow, when I get older with my wife and kids. And I really just don't want the finances to be an issue. You know what I mean? Because I've seen that
Yeah.
just break apart so many families and relationships. And I guess depending on which way you look at it, just being financially secure, having that yeah, the financial security, it makes life a lot better in some circumstances, I guess. Less worries.
Oh yeah, for sure. But there's the whole thing, more money, more problems, right?
Absolutely.
And that happens for a lot of people too. Whereas like they
Absolutely.
get the money, but they were rotten to the core anyway. So the money's not going to fix them, and it's not going to fix the people around them. So, coming up in a good family environment, I think is going to serve you really well, and it already has. So once you make that money, right? Once you hit your 2024 goal and you got that 500 grand sitting in the bank, then you can start making some moves.
Yeah.
Before we move on, what is your morning routine?
Yeah, so my morning routine, my first alarm goes off at 3:45 in the morning. And then my second goes off at 4, and that's when I really get up. My
Okay.
3:45 is kind of just like, all right, it's time to get up. I give myself 15 more minutes. I wake up, I drink a bottle of water, what is that, 16, 17 ounces with some vitamins like fish oil, a daily multivitamin. Um, I go and I brush my teeth. I kind of clean myself up. I spend some time in the Word. I spend some time with God. I read my Bible. I read my devotional. I pray. And then I head out to the gym probably at 4:45, 4:50, and I'm there right around 5:05, and I start my workout by then. After my workout, it's usually hour and a half, come back home, take a shower, probably listen to a podcast or an Audible, make a nice breakfast. Every single morning, I have a nice big delicious bowl of fruit with some eggs and some milk. Sit down. I'll have my meal as I'm kind of planning out my day. Some of the more important things I need to get done, some of the top priority things, and then list them down from most important to things that maybe could wait. And then start my day around 8:30, 9 a.m., and that's when the workday begins.
So you've already done like 4 hours worth of stuff before most people even get up, just with your routine, right?
Yeah.
But that's a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff too that people say they're going to do at the end of the day, right? Like after the day is over, I'll go to the gym and I'll do this and I'll do that. And it just doesn't end up getting done. So you're knocking it out right out of the gates. And then
Yep.
the rest of the day is yours. And so are you
Right.
putting in for like full days, or are you just kind of like, you know, whatever needs to get done gets done?
No, yeah, I'm putting in full days. I'm starting from 8:30, 9 a.m. A regular work day is from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's pretty much a regular work day. Sometimes it'll even go longer than that to 9, 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., excuse me, some days. But I would say, a pretty normal work day is from that 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Just with the things that I have to get done and managing my team and reviewing the opportunities that my team is bringing in and opportunities from other JV partners. So, yeah.
So your team has grown. It's 6 of you now. And before you were doing all the hustling, right? The dirty work, as you call it.
Yeah.
And now you've got people helping you with all that. So what have you been able to take off of your plate, and what do you focus your time on now?
Yeah, so the things that I've been able to take off my plate, the first one being cold calling. When I was on my own, I was cold calling for probably 4 to 5 hours a day, and I was getting great deals like that. So the first thing I outsourced was, the text messaging and the cold calling. The text messaging, I kind of outsourced with a great CRM that I use that utilizes a lot of automations and ChatGPT, which is pretty cool. But the first hire that I made was a virtual assistant. He's an absolute beast, man. I love him. Shout out to Amner. He'll work for me the same, probably 9, 10 a.m. He starts to 7 p.m. And then after he works for me, he'll go run like 4 miles. Like he is a savage.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's the first thing that I that I delegated was the cold calling. The second person that I brought onto my team was a MLS acquisition rep. So she works for me part-time, And when she works for me, she's focusing on acquiring and searching for those opportunities that are on the market, those distressed properties on the market, doing a lot of follow-ups, doing a lot of new outreach, that sort of thing. The third person that I brought on was another VA. With him, I had him as a buyer intake virtual assistant. So essentially, he's texting and cold calling buyers, adding, anywhere from 5 to 15 buyers a day to our buyers list. He's managing the calls, the text messages. The fourth person that I brought on was a second MLS acquisition rep. So essentially, she's doing the same thing because there's a lot of ground here to cover in the Tampa St. Pete area. And the third person that I brought on, he's actually helping me expand out into the Bradenton, Sarasota area, which I've done a handful of deals there, a handful of deals there this year, and they were actually some of my best assignment fees. So instead of throwing the third person on as another MLS acquisition rep, I said, you know what? If you're willing to commit the time with me, let's open up a new market and replicate what I have in Tampa, which has grown to this. And so that's what my team looks like as far as me and my roles. I'm managing the inbound text messages that come in on the Tampa side. I'm reviewing the opportunities that my cold caller VA brings in, both of my acquisition reps for the MLS, and then the third guy who's bringing in opportunities from Bradenton and Sarasota. I'm managing everybody, making sure everybody's, up to date with their KPIs and doing what they need to do, as well as managing the dispo side and the JV opportunities that come in from other wholesalers. So
there's a lot going on there, man.
there's a lot going on. Yeah.
Very cool. Had you managed people in the past, or that you're just kind of learning on the job?
I've never had I guess a manager role in the past. My first and only job, now that I think about it, was at a grocery store. I was like a bagger, and then I was a cashier, but I was never managing somebody. But I've always kind of been a leader, I guess, as far as, on the field, playing soccer, and, just, I guess, in other places, maybe the classroom in certain scenarios, just really kind of stepping up to the plate and being the leader when nobody else wanted to. But as far as a traditional professional business role, no, this is my first time. So, yeah,
It sounds like it's going pretty well.
I'm trying.
Yeah. You just mentioned in the classroom, it makes me realize, okay, so you started off in this while you were in high school. So what about college?
Yeah, so I never went to college. And throughout my high school, well, growing up, my mom was she went to high school, or she went to college, but she never got to finish. So her dream was always for me to go to college and get that degree. And so
Right.
growing up, she was always instilling that in me, go to school, get good grades. And I did that. I got the straight A's, I got the honor roll, I got all these different awards. And then by the time I got to high school, and that college was getting closer and closer, I was like, man, this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to go to school again and then go to school to come out, get a piece of paper and work a 9 to 5 job. That's not what I want to do.
Right.
And so, I had a tough conversation with my mom. She understood. It was definitely hard for her. And, she was like, you know what? I told her, I said, if you want to kick me out, that's as far as I'm willing to go. Cause I know for sure that I don't want to go to college. And when I told her that, she knew how serious I was. And she goes, all right, well, I'm not going to kick you out unless you're doing nothing, right? Like, I got to see you doing something, you got to get a job, or you got to, figure out this real estate thing, or if it was another industry that I ended up choosing. But she was, as long as I was doing something, keeping myself busy, learning in some sort of way, she was happy. And so I dove into the wholesaling, started, making cold calls, and, that's kind of how it all started.
So then you got your first deal done. What was that first deal you closed, and how cool was it to take it to her and be like, look, mom, I'm doing it?
Yeah, so the first deal I closed was actually with an acquisition company that I was with for about 7 to 8 months, and it was a really cool feeling. And the funny part was actually when I closed the seller, when I got her to verbally agree on a price, she was actually in the same room that I was in at the house, because I said, hey, I got to make this call. Most likely, this is the closing call. Do you want to listen to it with me while I make the call? I had, all these butterflies, all this excitement. And she was actually with me in the room. And I remember when I got off the phone, we were both kind of jumping up with joy. So that was a cool experience. Yeah.
That is so cool that she got to like literally be there with you as you closed it.
Yeah.
And there may have been a couple of times in that conversation where you're thinking, oh, okay, well, thanks, and you're gonna hang up, but you're like, no, my mom's right here listening to me. Like, I gotta
Yeah.
close this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So, I mean, like I said, you're just barely turned 20. You're not even legal to drink yet, and you're taking all of this information that you're gathering from the mastermind and the community. You're building this really cool business. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's maybe just kind of getting started, or they're struggling, they just can't get any, traction, or they can't get their first deal? What advice would you give them to be able to keep, to either, number one, succeed, but also just keep pushing through?
Yeah. I think consistency is probably the biggest thing. Showing up every day when you say you're going to do it, if maybe you have a family or you have another job, set aside some days and some times, hours that you can dedicate towards this, and really, really focus and lock in on those set times that you have. Don't get distracted. Don't, decide that, the laundry needs to be done, or you need to start cleaning up your desk, or you need to do this, you need to do that. When you set that time aside, definitely focus and truly have deep, deep focus time in that. Another thing I would say, and something that I see a lot with newer people, is there's so many different ways to make money in real estate, and people kind of get pulled in all these different directions with wholesaling and rentals and creative finance and gator lending and this and that. And so what I would say is, discover or evaluate all of the options, see what's out there, pick one and focus on it. Don't try to do the agent outreach and then try to do direct to seller and then try to do the gator lending and then this and then that. Look at everything that's out there, pick one, and really dedicate yourself to that for at least 6 months. At least 6 months, show up every day, make the calls, make the, hit the KPIs, the key performance indicators for those who don't know what that is, and just
Mhm.
show up for yourself, show up for your business, and show up for your family.
Absolutely. And so you're part of two communities. How important do you think it was in your growth and your ability to kind of move into the success path that you were part of these two great organizations, Astro Flipping and Sub 2?
Yeah, I think joining communities is huge. And I actually recently just joined a local one, a local real estate investors group here in Tampa. And I think it's so important because it really expedites that process. And for me, from a wholesaling perspective, I don't want to say that I'm a wholesaling master and that I know it all, but I'm at a point where I'm probably about 80 or 90% of, what there is to know out there. And like, for example, when I joined Astro Flipping, I was already following the Astro model and I knew what they were teaching within the course, but I didn't join the course to learn more. I joined for the community, for the network. And
Mhm.
this year I've paid out over, $50,000 in JV assignment fees to other Astro Flipping students that I connected with because I joined the community. Had I not joined that community, I wouldn't have been able to do all these deals with people, and I wouldn't have been able to close all the deals that I was able to this year. So the knowledge is great. The calls that they support is great. Having access to somebody like Pace or Jamil is also very important because they have tons and tons of knowledge and experience and a great network that they have and that they love to share with the community as well. So, having access to them and other members in the community is so key and so important, and it has definitely helped me and expedite my process for sure.
Oh yeah. Like that community is so valuable, especially that when when times get tough, and they will for everybody, right? You've been, I want to say an overnight success, but you've really risen up the ranks quickly within the community. But there was certainly struggles along the way, and so being able to talk to those people in the group and work through those issues, and like you said, the JV opportunities are there for sure as well. And I'm sure everybody who's listening to this is thinking, man, I want to work with Sean. And you're focusing mainly on the Tampa market, but you just mentioned you're in Bradenton and now Sarasota. If somebody wants to do some deals with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So the best way to get a hold of me is I'm very active on my Instagram. So my Instagram is Sean the Closer. My email, if you want to send a deal to me, that we can JV on, is deals, DEALS, at topshelfacquisitions.com. And yeah, probably, like I said, I'm super active on my Instagram, probably more than even my text messages at times. And then if you got a deal or an opportunity that you want to work on together, shoot it over to the email. And we'll get working on it and we'll take a look at it.
Awesome, man. Well, you guys reach out to Sean if you got anything that looks like it's got some margins in it, or it's got some, possibility of being a good deal. Send it to Sean. Again, it's on that St. Pete, Tampa, Bradenton, and Sarasota area. So
Yeah,
that's where you can definitely get some help from Sean, make some extra cash, and also to think about what you're good at, right? So like Sean's got the whole spectrum filled, but maybe you're good at acquisition, but you don't have anybody to help you dispo it. Or maybe you're good at the disposition, but you don't have any deals. Like that's why you want to call Sean, is to help connect the dots and kind of build that whole flow from beginning to end. Sean, it was really cool having you on, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. What's the next event you're going to be at? So I can plan, man. Where are we going to go and hang out again?
That's a great question. I don't think I've gotten my ticket to the next event. I'm kind of like an event junkie. I've been to, I don't even know how many events this year. I haven't gotten my ticket yet, but I'll probably end up going to the, I don't know exactly what it's called. I think it's the Squad Up Summit that Pace and Jamil are having in Orlando in April or something around there. I'll probably end up going to that one, or if I don't get a ticket, at least going 1 or 2 nights to go connect with the community and everybody there. That's probably the most recent one that I can think of, or the soonest one.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll be there, so we'll certainly see each other then. And between now and then, well, thank you so much. Good luck with everything. Reach out if you need help with anything at all. But for those of you listening, keep an eye out for future podcasts, recordings. Like and follow the podcast and my page. And we're always doing tips and tricks, and we're talking to cool people like Sean and other real estate investors and influencers and mentors and coaches, and always just bringing in fresh new content. So really appreciate you guys listening today. Sean, thanks again for being here, man. I appreciate it, and have a happy holidays.
Thank you. You too. Thanks so much for having me on, Benson.
You got it, man. Thanks.
Thanks.
That's a wrap on today's Real Estate Revelations. Thank you for tuning into the REI Hacker Podcast. Remember, every property has a story, and every deal is a lesson. Until next time, keep hacking the real estate world.